Hi everyone, welcome to the Rugby League History channel. Tonight I'll be doing another video as part of my rivalry video series. A couple of weeks ago I did a video very similar to the one I'm going to be doing tonight, and that was Are the Penrith Panthers and Canberra Raiders rivals? If you have not watched that video yet, I'll put a link in the description below so you can watch it. It had a good response, had over 2,000 views, but tonight I'll be doing another video in a similar vein, and it is, are the Penrith Panthers and Sydney Roosters rivals? The main reason I will be doing this video tonight is because a couple of weeks ago when Penrith played against the Sydney Roosters out there at Penrith Park, Channel 9 commentator Matt Thompson said, as the ball was being kicked off, he said, this match is one of the biggest rivalries in the NRL. These two sides hate each other with a passion. It's an arch rivalry, and it's a game that always brings out the best in both sides. And for me, it was like a needle going off the record player. I went, huh? Since when? I've been watching rugby league my entire life. I'm 34-year-old now, and as long as I can remember, I've never heard anyone describe Penrith and Eastern Suburbs as a rival. And I've been friends with both Penrith and Eastern Suburbs supporters over the years, and none of them have ever disclosed to me that they hate Penrith or they hate Sydney Roosters, vice versa. So I thought to myself, I'm going to do a video on this tonight. I'm going to go back through the history of the clubs, and I'm going to talk about some big moments, and I'm going to come to my own conclusion to see if this is actually a rivalry or not. Of course, I'm going to start off with the history between the two sides. I did this with my Penrith and Canberra video. So head to head, there's been 97 matches played between these two sides. Penrith have won 40 times. Eastern Suburbs have won 56, and there's been one draw. The first time that these two sides met was on the 7th of May 1967. Eastern Suburbs defeated Penrith 26 points to 10 at Penrith Park in front of 7,290 fans. This might surprise some people out there that watch this video. The two sides, in the whole time that Penrith have been in the competition since 1967, they've only played against Sydney Roosters 4 times in the finals. And the first one, the first ever finals meeting, was actually the 2003 NRL Grand Final, where Penrith won that 18 points to 6, and we always remember and go back to that tackle that Scott Sattler did on Todd Byrne. Then the 2010 season happened. Penrith come second, but in the final series, in the semi-final, Eastern Suburbs upset Penrith, winning 34 points to 12 at the Sydney Football Stadium. In 2014, there was a memorable qualifying final between the two sides. Penrith were victors on that occasion. They weren't expected to win the game, but they did. They won at 19 points to 18 from a Jamie Soward field goal right towards the end of the match. And then in 2020, Penrith, who finished as minor premiers, played against Sydney Roosters in the first week of the finals, and they won that 29 points to 28. But by memory, Penrith were out in front by a considerable margin, and Eastern Suburbs come hard in the second half and got the game quite close, but then Nathan Cleary kicked a field goal and won it for Penrith. Now, as I did with the Penrith and Canberra video, I asked the fans. I went on both supporters' pages and I asked the question, Penrith fans, do you see Sydney Roosters as your biggest rival? Sydney Roosters fans, do you see Penrith as your biggest rival? And from the Sydney Roosters side, a lot of the comments were very lukewarm at best. Some of them said, no chance, we don't consider them a rival. There was one or two people that went, oh, well, we're still a bit pissed off that they beat us in the 2003 Grand Final. And there were a couple of other people that were a bit older that went, they still carry on about how we stole, and they use it in quotation marks, Phil Gould and Brad Fittler, but they need to get over themselves. When I asked the Penrith supporters, they were a bit more vocal. A lot of them said it was mainly due to Phil Gould going over to Eastern Suburbs and then Brad Fittler going over later, which left a bit of a sour taste in their mouths. And a few others said that there's some sort of class division. People from the Eastern Suburbs think that they're better than people from out in the working class suburbs of Western Sydney. But there was no real sort of, I hate this team. It was more of a, especially from the older generation, it was more of a, well, they took Phil Gould and they took Brad Fittler. And the younger generation were kind of asking the question, is this even a rivalry? Is this person having a laugh or what? So from both sets of supporters, the overall response, I think, was pretty lukewarm, to be perfectly honest. And the moment that both sides talk about is Phil Gould was a premiership winning coach with Penrith. He won them their first ever premiership, and he stayed on with the club. And in 1994, in round 16, he coached his final match as a Penrith head coach. After that, he walked out on the club and signed a contract with Eastern Suburbs, now Sydney Roosters. As a result, Royce Simmons took over as head coach of Penrith. Penrith was sat 10th at the time when Phil Gould left, and they finished 8th. 2 years later, though, however, one of Penrith's favourite sons and one of the game's best players and highest paid players, I read that he was being paid well over $1 million Australian dollars a season in 1995. Brad Fittler signed for Eastern Suburbs. There's been many stories as to why he did that. It was due to the Super League war. From what I've read, Phil Gould was pro-ERL. He was opposed to the Super League. And then around about the same time, Matt Singh, who we all know went on to play for Australia, Queensland, and he played for North Queensland as well. He also joined Eastern Suburbs in 1996. Penrith finished 15th in 1996 after Brad Fittler departed the club. Of course, naturally, this would leave a sour taste in Penrith supporters' mouths, but as a few of them noted, in 2003, some wrongs were righted when they won the 2003 Premiership against Eastern Suburbs, and of course, Brad Fittler was the captain of Sydney Roosters in that grand final. Looking back through the history of the two clubs as well, there isn't too many players that have played for Penrith and then have gone to Sydney Roosters and vice versa directly. Looking through the list of some of the players I did find, Gary Freeman did it. Doug Ricketson was one of the first players to ever go from Eastern Suburbs to Penrith. Ned Katic, Nigel Gaffey, Amos Roberts. Another player that some fans on the supporters pages mentioned, Michael Jennings. He went from Penrith to Sydney Roosters. Recently, Paul Moborowski, Zane Tetevano, and also one of the 1991 Premiership winning players, Graham Mackay. He also went to Eastern Suburbs in 1995. So now for my own personal take on this so-called rivalry, I do not consider Penrith and Sydney Roosters to be a rival. If a player and a coach leaving Penrith to go to the other club nearly 30 years ago makes it a fierce arch rivalry, I guess lots of other clubs are arch rivals as well, because this thing has happened in the past. Yes, there has been some finals matches and a grand final play between the two sides, but besides Matt Thompson mentioning it to be a rival, I've never heard anyone else in the media ever describe this as a big arch rivalry. I typed in Penrith Panthers and Eastern Suburbs or Sydney Roosters rivalry onto Google, and only one page popped up. There was no other pages on Google or any other search engines that indicated any articles pointing towards a rivalry. As I said, I do not consider it to be a rival. There has been some big games, but nothing to push it any further than that. So that concludes my video on the Penrith Panthers and Sydney Roosters rivals. In my own personal opinion, it's an overwhelming no. These two sides are not rivals. So Matt Thompson, you can go on Channel 9 and you can see whatever you want and you can think whatever you want in that mind of yours, but the majority of people out there do not share your view, and the Penrith Panthers and Sydney Roosters are not rivals. So anyways, everyone, thanks for tuning in and watching this video. It's been much appreciated. I've got more videos coming out very, very shortly. Stay tuned for those. This has been Rugby League History. I'll catch us all later in the next one. Alright, tatty bye for now.